I'm Shelley Kurtz. Welcome to 50 years of KVAL.
And I'm David Walker. We've gone deep into the KVAL archives to bring you some of the most memorable moments from KVAL's past 50 years.
We'll also visit with some familiar faces who've played an important role in KVAL's history.
So let's go back 50 years to 1954. The population of Eugene was 40,000 and growing. Gas was 29 cents a gallon, and you could buy a home in the area for $8,000.
And on April 15th, KVAL began broadcasting from Blanton Heights. In fact, in a studio not far from where we're standing, employees, politicians, and other invited guests gathered around and watched as history was made. Television in the Willamette Valley and Western Oregon was born. KVAL was on the air. KVAL went on the air that day with a staff of 15 people. Marv Crank was hired as the station's first salesperson and hosted the inaugural show. His wife, Mary, appeared in some of the first commercials to air on KVAL. Together, they hosted a number of programs, from telethons to their own talk show. For Marv, the big challenge in those days was selling to advertisers who'd never seen television.
I remember, since I was in the sales department, going downtown and talking pre-television, we weren't even on the air yet, to say, well, I want you to buy some television time. And they say, well, who's got it? Who's going to spend any time looking at a little box in the corner, you know? Everybody kind of was uneasy about the inaugural show. The board of directors kind of stood around looking at the place with nothing to do. And the employees were scurrying around trying to be very helpful in all parts because everybody wanted to be seen as being very helpful. And so it was really a new occasion.
I think there were a lot of frightened people.
Yeah.
They all looked like, what's going to happen?
It was a time in life when if the picture moved, it didn't matter what its quality was, it didn't matter too much what it sounded like, but if it moved and wiggled, you had them. You had them.
Bob Anderson began his career in radio in Portland and was hired at KVAL as an announcer and engineer. Early on, he had doubts about the viewing habits of KVAL's audience.
Most of us thought people wouldn't be able to watch television in the daytime. They have to sit and watch that, and they won't do that. So, but it turned out that we were wrong on that. But not too many people in Eugene had television sets, as a matter of fact. And those that did could pick up a kind of a snowy picture from KOIN in Portland.
Bev Green was a well-known radio personality in Eugene before coming to KVAL. She hosted KVAL's first talk show, Guest Book. It didn't take long for her to realize the power of television.
We sold an awful lot of fashion. Kaufman's, Russell's, Bon Marché, all found that people were fascinated by this medium. And we were instant celebrities, you know, because there wasn't anybody else to watch.
Bill Riley had lived in Eugene most of his life when he was hired as an engineer at KVAL, a position he would serve in for over 20 years. But it's the early days that Bill remembers most, when getting and keeping the station on the air could be a harrowing experience.
The equipment in those days, you didn't have very much. We had to build a lot of the equipment. I built a lot of equipment to this place before we went on the air that wasn't available. You couldn't buy it. There wasn't anything. Those were the days of the vacuum tube. There were 2,200 vacuum tubes in this place. I had to keep checked every month and replace the bad ones and all of this. I did that all by myself. We had problems every day with vacuum tube equipment, and it wasn't any fun, really.
Sylvia Furtick went from teaching at a local school to teaching on television as the first Ms. Romper Room. Despite not having any television experience, Sylvia never felt intimidated by the prospect of working with preschoolers on live TV.
I don't remember being terrified. And of course, I had those kids to look after. That was my job, and that's what I'd been doing as a teacher anyway. I felt, I suppose, that one of the chief things I had to do was be sure they were comfortable. But as I say, nobody was intimidated because it was all so new. The people who were watching didn't know what it was supposed to look like because they'd never seen it before. And it was just, it just seemed like quite a natural thing.
Andy Maxon's show Let's Go Fishing made its debut on KVAL 3 days after the station went on the air and would continue to air for another 12 years. And although he'd been hosting a local fishing show on the radio, live television had him rattled.
A little bit nervous. I was shaking like a leaf. The first one was a really bad one. I could hardly talk. My mouth was so full of popcorn.
KVAL's early lineup of local programming included Chef Gino, Cooking Capers, Let's Go Fishing, and the talk show Guest Book, hosted originally by Bev Green and later by Mary Crank.
I would interview people who came to town. I could interview the Vice President of the United States, but I could not read the news on the air. I had to have a man read the news on the air because women were not credible. Now that tells you something about change.
Very famous people came to Eugene, Oregon, because they were promoting a book or something. You know, they were doing something that they wanted people to know about, and they had to travel. They couldn't do it by wireless. So we had people like, well, Charles Schultz was one of my most fun interviews.
Now you might like to know whose autograph is about to be given out, and I'll tell you, it's Mr. Charles Schultz, right here beside me. And Mr. Schultz is the creator of the wonderful Peanuts cartoons. May I ask you, Mr. Schultz, what brings you to Eugene?
I'm here to speak tomorrow night at the high school press conference at their banquet.
Lucky high school students, aren't they? You can't say so, but I can. Well, are your little people in your cartoons, Charlie Brown, Linus, and Lucy, are they real people, or are they... Well,
they're very real to me. They may not be real to anyone else.
Well, I should say, are they prototypes of real people? Do you get the idea for them from some real person?
I think most of them are me.
Most of them are you? Even Snoopy?
He could be.
I wondered about that one.
In addition to its regular lineup, KVAL was also home to the area's first local afternoon kids show, Red Reynolds and his Big Roundup.
And it was very popular. And he would have different scout groups come up, and so he always had a live audience for his show as well as being on television.
Building sets, we had Red Reynolds was the fellow that did that. He also had a show up here, Big Roundup, I think he called it. And he built all the sets, but some of his sets were not too stable.
Red Reynolds would say, howdy, partner, and take off his hat and put it on. That's the way he opened the show. He was so thin you couldn't see him sideways.
Like all local programming and commercials in those days, everything was live, leaving performers nowhere to hide when things went wrong, as they often did.
This, of course, was the time of live television, and there was no way for anything to happen that didn't happen with you participating and it all being seen by the viewers. This was a mixed blessing. I mean, you knew that, so you had to be prepared.
Being live, I guess, we didn't think about it because that's all we did was the exciting part, I guess. It had to be right or it was wrong.
We didn't have tape, as I say. So if you made a mistake on the air, you made a mistake on the air. There was nobody there to wipe your face.
In the early television, of course, I think one of its greatest charms was its implicit honesty. Whatever you saw, that's what was going on.
We were very fortunate to be involved very early in this medium because it just gives you a lot of wonderful memories.
It was just a precious time. It was just always fun. We just had a good time. And it was a privilege to be able to do it.
Every once in a while, somebody will remember me from television. I'm always very surprised that they do, because you have to be pretty old by now to remember those days. But once in a while, I'm always surprised that anybody would remember that far back.
She says, aren't you the man that used to have the Let's Go Fishing show on KVAL TV? And of course, it's a little startling to me because some of those people are fairly old,
So even now in the rest homes and so on, when we're dancing and so on, we'll run into somebody said, I remember you from television. I was 7 years old and so on.
Yeah, that's very annoying.
That is very annoying.
They were all 7 years old. Yeah.
He was among the first television journalists in Western Oregon and became part of the family for many KVAL viewers. He led KVAL through big changes in news, from 15-minute newscasts and stories shot on black and white film to videotape and live vans. Even today, 50 years after KVAL began broadcasting, the name John Doyle is still synonymous with news.
They decided it was time to start local news in Roseburg. And they gave me a Polaroid camera and a car, and we did 2.5 minutes of news, an insert in the news that came from Eugene. That's it, folks. It was me. I came in at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and if something happened that was really exciting, you could take black and white film, you could send it to Eugene, and they'd process it, and you would get it back the next day. If you shot color film, had to go to Portland, so you didn't get it back for 2 days. So you didn't do much shooting of film. I took my little Polaroid camera and ran around and took pictures of anything I could find. We had one camera in the studio, and the camera operator would grab the little switch on where you racked lenses, and that killed the picture on the air for a minute, and he'd run real fast in and turn the crank on the side of the camera and focus and get these pictures on the air. It was real Mickey Mouse. In a lot of ways, things are not as much fun now as they were when I started out, because you could experiment. You could do anything in those days. Things were live, and you made mistakes, but you made them so everybody could see them. So it was a lot of fun, having an opportunity to talk to some national figures at times. Like I got to visit with Nixon, I got to visit with Kennedy before he was president.
Senator Kennedy, I'd like to ask you what you feel the effect of the Oregon primary will have on your political hopes.
Well, I think this may well be an important primary. It has been in the past.
I was probably scared to death, you know, that he and his entourage came in, and he got off the airplane, and they had sent a fellow named Will Trumbull down from Eugene to run the camera, and he got off the airplane and stuck a microphone in his face and asked him a couple of questions, and probably shivered and shook a little bit as we were doing it. He was a good guy to interview. Well, that was probably the most exciting thing I've ever been involved in. You know, I came to work, and it was a beautiful afternoon. When I drove up the hill, everything was fine. There was some sun out, and just looked like a lovely afternoon. And by the time I got up here on top of the hill, the wind had started to blow. And within a half an hour, 45 minutes, power was going off all over, and trees were down, and everything was just falling apart in just a very short period of time. There were roofs off, there were trees down. The campus and the university, there were trees down all over the place there. And one of the, I guess, most startling things was when we went to the airport and you watched airplanes just being turned over. And in most cases in those days, we were on a film budget. We were only allowed to shoot so much film. The Columbus Day storm broke, and the people from up here, the people in charge of things, had gone home. And we called the individual who was in charge of the film cabinet, which was back in one of the offices in the back, and he had the key to it, you know, to get into it. And he'd hand out 100, 200, 300 feet of film. And he'd already handed out his day's supply, and we called and wanted film. He had to get some film of this stuff. He said, no way am I coming up there. You just use what you got and do without. So we went back and pried the door off the thing and took the film anyway. Nobody ever said a word about it either. That was really some story. A lady from Smith Communications called me at home about 8:45 on a Sunday morning. I was sitting watching television and reading the funny papers. Called me to tell me that Mount St. Helens had just blown it. And in the meantime, I called Mark Hass, who was a reporter for us at that time, and Maureen Shine, who was a photographer for us at that time. And we got Henderson Aviation with his helicopter and loaded them aboard that. They came, landed in the parking lot and loaded aboard, and they took off for the Mount St. Helens. Maureen got some great shots of that volcano erupting, and they were close in on a lot of it, probably closer than they should have been. You know, there have been so many things. The shutting down of the downtown, making a mall out of the downtown.
Dave, what are the advantages of having a mall?
Well, the obvious advantage is we don't have to put up with traffic. I mean, people can move freely from one store to another store. And
what we really are actually witnessing today is the beginning of new opportunities for a revitalization of our entire city. How do you like the mall?
Oh, I think it's beautiful. It's really nice, and I think that it will improve the business downtown, too.
I love it. It's very nice.
It's pretty nice. I really dig it.
What do you like best about it?
I don't know. It just makes it a lot nicer to walk around, wait for my wife to spend money.
How do you folks like the mall?
Well, it's fine, I guess.
I think it's really great. Sure, a lot of big improvement over what it was. What do you like best about it? I like the fountains real well.
The story that we did with Archie Weinstein down there when he had a funeral for downtown, and he had a big casket out in front of the outdoor store down there, and he said it was the death of the downtown. And all the people around town, oh no, this is just the beginning of something great. Well, he was a lot closer to being right than the rest of them were. The first co-anchors here were Wayne Whitehead and I. We worked together for a while. And then Marty Levine was here.
What was the funniest thing that ever happened to you doing the news?
Well, it's something I couldn't tell on television.
Russell Satter, Northwest News at the state capitol.
Gary Hill for Northwest News.
Diane McCarthy for Northwest News.
Don Porter for Northwest News.
Thinking about all the people that have been through here over the years, I wish I had kept a log. Just the names of people who've gone there. There must be hundreds. If I ever had any kind of a talent in this business, I guess it was finding people that had some talent and had a future. And I always had a kind of a theory that you hire somebody that you think is pretty good and then get the hell out of the way and let them do their job.
I'm Bryce Zabel, and today we visited a place that's giving a lot of people a chance to find out.
This is Paul Reese in Eugene with a report.
It's always been people in this business. They're a bunch of nuts in the business, and they keep you kind of laughing and having fun. I think it's a business where it is fun to go to work every day. Not every day, most days. Well, I finally found something I could do. You know, they looked around, kept trying to find something, and I found it finally. Retirement's doing nothing. It's good. I do it and do it well.
Since its early days on the air, KVAL had been home to an afternoon kids show, from Red Reynolds to Addie Bobkins. But ask any kid who grew up in this area during the 60s, and they'll tell you there was only one king of the kids shows, Captain Shipwreck. For 7 years, Captain Shipwreck ruled the afternoon airwaves. Even now, 35 years after his show went off the air, people still recognize the captain wherever he goes.
I was hired as an announcer/director. I'm replacing a guy named Bob Adkins, who had a show called Addie Bobkins, King of the Boo-Boos. And the station said no more kid shows. They hated having all the kids in the front lobby from 3 o'clock till 4 o'clock. Curtain climbers, you know, screaming and all that stuff. They said it's just impossible to do business. Forget it, no more kid shows. So they hired me as a straight announcer. And I'm there, it can't have been more than 6 weeks. And all of a sudden, the sales department is realizing they're losing Pepsi money, they're losing Williams Bakery money, they're losing Daragold ice cream, they're losing, you know, and all these dollars going over to KEZI. So on a Friday afternoon, about 4:30, just before this coward left for home, the program director said to me, "Can you do a kid show?" I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Well, I hope so, because you got one starting Monday at 4:30. So my wife and I had the weekend to decide what I was going to do to start a children's show the following Monday. We scrabbled around and found some torn up old pants I had and some tennis shoes from the Navy, put on a striped shirt, and I went down to Eugene Surplus Sales and bought a white captain's cap. I had been a drama student at Portland State, so I knew how to make a crepe beard. So I made a beard and eyebrows and started out Monday going, "Oh, with our mates, and welcome to Shipwreck Island for an afternoon of fun and good times." And that was all I had. That was pretty much it. Popeye, ahoy, Popeye, ahoy, you know. And here comes the first cartoon. And then I did all the spots in Shipwreck. You could do that then. Now they wouldn't let you touch a spot as an entertainer. But I would whip up Wonder Bread, and we'd have the stuff going everywhere, and we had the eggs being thrown back and forth, and just nonsense. And for about maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, I did it all by myself. And then they finally said, well, invite some kids. And I said, if I invite kids and nobody calls, I'm just going to be mortified. So no, I don't have the courage. And it took a couple, 3 days to say, come on, give the phone number and let's see what happens. So I did. I gave the phone number, and man, the phones lit up, and we started having children up there 5 days a week, and we got to the point where we took reservations 12 months in advance, and I had to be well for 12 months. I couldn't be sick, because that would be a birthday party or a bunch of bluebirds or Cub Scouts destroyed who'd been waiting for 8 months to come on the show. To know that the kids wanted to be there badly enough to line up that far in advance was very rewarding. It's been absolutely goosebumpy to have it happen, because everybody that does it, at least the only ones that have mentioned it to me, have had happy memories of that time. There's been something that happened. They can tell me specifically what happened on the show when they were there, what I said to them, what they said to me. To think about the fringe benefit of touching that many lives in a 7-year period and being paid back 30 years later is absolutely phenomenal. I'd say it was a benefit that I had no concept would be coming my way.
You know, David, you love them, you hate them, but unfortunately in television, you can't live without them.
Now we're talking about commercials, the lifeblood of every TV station. They've been a part of the television landscape since the very beginning. In
the early days of KVAL, commercials were done live in the studio, or if the budget allowed, shot on film, on location. But even then, you only had one take to get it right.
Well, here are some of the commercials that got it right. The classic commercials of KVAL.
Hungry, step right up, my friend. You know, it's true, it's terrific, it's tremendous. 3 genuine value-packed days throughout the city of Eugene. In store after store, the most amazing bargains ever seen in the Emerald Empire. Now, whatever you want, whatever you need, you'll find it in Eugene. May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. 1, 2, 3 exciting days dedicated to you, the great American shopper.
Do you remember sweet Betsy and Joe? They crossed the great prairies a long time ago, came over the mountains to never more roam, for they found westward ho and said, here is our home.
For quality homes designed for easy western living, see Westward Ho.
From outer space to you come the attractive space girls that will meet you at the curb, help you with your parking problems, and perform special shopper services. Remember those 3 out-of-this-world days, November 6th, 7th, and 8th, when from outer space to you come Emerald Empire Day.
We got a K9 and the best dog ration made, and here's why. K9, she's got 25% of protein. She's got the plenty beef and a beef fat. She's got the plenty cheese. She's got the plenty fish, vegetable, and a plenty cooked cereal too. Look, K9, she no made in Italy. She made in Oregano, so you know it's got to be fresh. So you go to the groceria or the feed store man, you say, I want some K9. And you get a K9 in 3 different sizes. You get a K9 in the piccolo size, and you get a K9 in the mezzo size, and you get a K9 in the grosso size. You get some today, huh? Thank you. Oh, solo mio, oh, solo you.
Hello, I'm Mary Crank, speaking for the Broadway. And here it is, the We Contour Baby Holder, a marvelous invention for holding the baby while it's being bathed. And by the way, a Myrtle Creek, Oregon mother invented this. Here you see this smooth contoured holder made of sanitary plastic on a sturdy metal frame. See how it fits into any pan or tub. This safe holder leaves both of mother's hands free to shampoo or bathe baby. Right now, it's available at this special introductory price, $4.95.
Hi do, Kirk, and hi do, folks.
It just gives me a couple of minutes here to tell you about our special values that we're offering on this sale. Here's really a corker. We have the U.S. kids and Converse kids that are Converse shoes, rather, that are sold for regular for $5.95. Basketball shoes, $2.88.
Hi, my name is Eunice Cedar-Off, and my theme is getting to know you.
She'd like to know all of you, and you'll find her at the Oregon at Allison's, 1166 Pacific Highway North.
I think probably one of the things I'm looking at right now here is the open-cut steering wheel. We find that there are a lot of people like that because they're able to see the instrument panel very well. That's just one of the many items.
Now here is the assistant manager of Birch's here in Eugene, Mr. Morris. I think most of his friends call him Mo, and I'm sure you know him as that. Mo, what values do you have for Emerald Empire Days?
Well, Harry, as usual, it gives us great pleasure to be able to bring our Lane County people and all of Western Oregon the finest buys in footwear.
This is a special price this time of $19.95 for this two-door custom 300 1958 model.
And that's for the 3 days only, beginning tomorrow, May 1st.
That's right.
Well, this is a big occasion, then, for Kendall Motor Company. So we want to thank you very much, Harry Kendall, General Manager.
We have a full automatic 21-inch TV set, beautiful hardwood veneer cabinets, a 1958 model that sells regularly at $319.95. We're going to save you $40. We're going to sell that at $279.83 and include in it a 1-year service warranty.
The 79-cent bottle of rubbing alcohol compound, 2 for 80 cents. And air refreshing spray, 2 for 99 cents, which of course is not the last item in the building. And here's another item that Mr. Tiffany has that's not on the 1-cent sale, but it's a tremendous bargain. What is it, Mr. Tiffany?
This is a regular $65 big 19-inch cut lawnmower at just $39.77, and it can be bought on easy terms, of course.
We're finding this spot is quite popular. There's a Coke machine and the latest in all pop records on the music machine and a wonderful bulletin board. We hope you girls will come in and see us.
Well, you too, mothers. You feel free to visit the new Twixton Teen Shop with your junior miss. That's the Broadway, 30 East Broadway, Eugene's only home-owned department store.
K9, the complete dog food, you get K9. You get real dog food, you get beef fat. You get real dog food, you get protein. You get real dog food, you get K9. Cats really like it too. You get meat, you get real dog food, you get fish. You get real dog food, you get cheese. You get real dog food, you get vitamins, jump, jump. Dog food, you get K9. Pet cats like it too. K9.
We really like it.
Feel fine.
The goat's nut, Rob.
K9.
Yum, yummy, yummy.
Feel fine.
Real good stuff.
K9. Cats really like it too. So get K9.
It's the complete dog food.
Like most small market stations across the country, KVAL has been the starting point for hundreds of aspiring TV journalists.
Some were around for a couple of years and moved on to stations in bigger markets. Some got out of television altogether. And still, some others got out of television and moved on to bigger things.
Here's a look at what some former KVAL news people are up to.
Hi, Kval. This was me about 15 years and 40 pounds ago. My name is David Schmidtke. I used to be the morning anchor and weatherman and reporter and all kinds of other things at Kval from 1986 to 1993. Since then, worked for the CBS affiliate in Portland for a number of years, and now I'm known as Mr. Fix-It on KEX Radio, its call-in show, and also as Handyman Dave for KPTV Channel 12 up in Portland. Really enjoyed my time at Kval, have a lot of memories, especially trying to get up that hill in the wintertime. Happy 50th anniversary, Kval.
Hi, I'm Gary Leeming, part of the Northwest News team from 1984 to 1998, wishing Northwest News and KVAL a happy 50th anniversary.
Hi,
I'm Helen Raptus. I worked at Kval from 1989 to 1993. Let's see, when I left Kval, I started working at the NBC affiliate, KGW. Then I kind of moved around a lot after the show was canceled that I worked on there. And now I've been at Channel 2, the ABC affiliate, KATU, for about 6 years. I co-host a morning show called AM Northwest, and I'm a feature reporter having lots of fun. Happy 50th anniversary again, Kval.
Hi, I'm Kent Mortimer, and I was with Northwest News from the late 1970s through the mid-1980s. And I want to wish all the good people at KVAL happy 50th anniversary.
Hi, I'm Paula Gunnis. I was a former reporter and anchor back at Kval, late 70s. You know, it's a blur. I left in 1980, so that's as far as I can go. You know, since I left Kval, I went to K2 for many, many years, and the last 3 to 4 years, I've been head of public relations at Providence Portland Medical Center. Just want to wish all of you a happy 50th anniversary.
I'm Bill Bradbury, Oregon Secretary of State, and I had the great honor of working at KVAL and KCBY from 1976 to 1978. And it was an amazing time in television because we were making this incredible transition to video. And it went from everything being done on film to everything being done on video. And I was one of the people that knew how to use portable video gear. So that's why I'm convinced that's partly why Steve Christensen, who was my partner, and I got hired, was because we knew how to use video gear, we knew how to edit it, we knew how to make it sing to the public. So it was a great experience to be working for KVAL then, and I'm just so proud that they're now 50 years of broadcasting. They've done it for 50 years, and they've served the public so well.
Hello, I'm Susan Castillo, and I worked as a reporter at KVAL TV from 1982 to 1997, and during that time worked with really wonderful people. When I think back on those years, I think of them as some of the greatest in my life. Congratulations, KVAL, on 50 years.
Hi, I'm Wink Guthrie, living here in Eugene, and I was part of the KVAL TV family from 1960 to late 1973. And that's been a long time ago, but gosh, it's hard to realize that KVAL has been on the air for 50 years. Is that true? 50 years? Wow. Well, keep up the good work, and here's to another 50.
My name is Jim Bradley. I was on the staff here at KVAL TV from 1966 until 1978. I was on the air doing weather and news from 1960, about 69 until 78, working with John Doyle, Diane McCarthy, and Wink Guthrie, and, of course, Captain Shipwreck, Gordon Bussey. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate KVAL TV on their 50th anniversary, and looking forward to many more years of good entertainment, but I'll be sitting at home watching.
Hi, I'm John Doyle, retired now for a number of years from Kval. Prior to my retirement, I spent a little over 40 years here as a member of the staff, and it gives me a great deal of pride and pleasure to offer congratulations to KVAL on their 50 years of service to this community.
It's bad enough when you forget your co-anchor's name.
Or you get the giggles.
Or the wrong tape rolls.
Or equipment breaks down during a newscast. Not that we've ever experienced any of that.
Never. But it can be even worse when it happens live on camera in front of thousands of viewers.
Mm-hmm. And since no show on the history of KVAL would be complete without a look at some classic bloopers, we've saved the best for last.
Or is it the worst for last? Here are some of the more memorable bloopers of KVAL's 50 years.
In his comment tonight, Tom McCall says that makes planning a high priority need.
It's a need to be very, very careful about Oregon's present and future.
What are you signing there?
Oh, don't lose my spin.
Paul?
Right.
P-A-U-L. U-L, right. Wise up. Okay.
How's the movie going? I'm sorry to interrupt, but Landis wants you.
I'm needed on the set.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Who you were rooting for all along?
I was actually rooting for the grandmother, if you can believe it.
I was rooting for the Oregonian. I'm a loyalist from way back. We're out of time. Watch Saturday Night Live tonight.
News Saturday Report. We're on film and videotape. For the next edition of Northwest News, join us tonight at 11.
The most consistent hitter in baseball, Rod Carew, is a California Angel tonight. The Minnesota Twins have traded Carew, gee whiz, to the New York Yankees, ending their efforts to sign the superstar.
I did you a favor and I decided to bring the party to you.
Has pleaded innocent by reason of insanity. 25-year-old Lawrence Moore of Scio appeared before a Marion County Circuit judge on 4 counts of murder. Excuse me, the judge has scheduled the trial for July 29th.
All right. British truck driver Peter Sutcliffe, the self-confessed Yorkshire Ripper, was convicted today of the murders of 13 women between the years 1975 and 1980. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with a recommendation he serve a minimum of 30 years in jail. Sporadic violence flared in Northern Ireland today following the deaths within 24 hours of each other of hunger strikers Raymond McCreesh and Patrick O'Hara. This is not a funny story, folks. I'm not laughing at the story, I assure you. At least one death is blamed on today's rioting in Ireland. About 12 people were injured. Atlanta got a $460,000 federal infusion today to help with summer recreation programs. Authorities hope those programs will guard the children. Another young black man has been reported missing, and many more are very frightened.
And I'll tell you again when to expect the sunshine when we return.
And what do you say to your kids when they ask you about the facts of life? We'll have that story and more in just a minute.
What was that all about?
13 Eugene.
This is Northwest News Saturday Report, #1 since 1960, and still the first choice of Western Oregon viewers, with Barbara Mapp, Scott Hall, and Pat McGilvery.
In the news tonight, local utility.
In the NBA tonight, the Portland Trail Blazers got back on the winning streak. Alexander Haig, of course, a big Portland Trail Blazers fan, and I'm sure he was rooting for the Blazers all the way. Anyway,
Bob Gilder of Corvallis says he was just as surprised as everyone else at his finish of the 3rd round today at the Westchester Golf Classic. Gilder came up with an amazing second shot on the par 5 18th hole. Paul Westhead to become the head coach of the NBA Chicago Bulls Monday. Word is the Bulls are about to call a press conference for Monday. They'll name Westhead the head coach just in time for Tuesday's NBA draft. And finally tonight, a Eugene couple was married in Joliet, Illinois today, only after they completed a 10K run. And they all ran off and made it to the altar on time. That's a look at sports.
Thanks, Pat. I'll have a look at the weather in just a moment.
If your social security social calendar is blank, I have Social Security on my mind. At my age, it's very important.
Winds on the coast, snow in the mountains, and rain in Eugene. Not much new there. So, as it looks, we're going to have a little of everything.
Was it? There was quite a bit of wind in town today too. Is that true?
That's correct. To give you an idea of how bad the winds were for a while.
Space shuttle technicians have been found getting high at NASA's headquarters in Houston. So is our teleprompter operator.
Hospital authorities say tops on the list of donor liver comes in. If a donor liver comes in, Danita was flown to California over the weekend after her conditional
season. It is definitely a hot business. In Springfield, Gary Leeming, Northwest News.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Northwest News this Friday night. Steve Wohlers has the night off. Reporting with Shelley Kurtz and Pat McGilvery, I'm Gary Leeming. Well, for the first...
Most of these freshmen have been playing football for up to 7 years.
Looking at our state temperatures around the state, can we take a look at those? So we got to look at Pat, who was looking at the temperatures. Here should be interesting. Thanks, Pat.
Dennis.
Dennis.
Yes.
I remembered the name.
Finally, we have a letter from a newcomer to our area. This letter writer has a comment about John Doyle. He looks so old, she writes, that you wonder if he'll even make it through the newscast. He must be at least 70 to 75 years old. Well, John assures us that he will last through the newscast, and he's only 62 years young. He'll be 63 next month, and I hope you'll stick around for a while.
I'm not only going to make it through this one, but a few others along the way.
And finally, after breaking his father's course speed record, Michael Andretti went out and won the Milwaukee 200 Indy car race. And he looked like a golfer when he was doing it. He wears kind of funny clothes. He looks kind of like a girl, but who's going to give him a bad time? He wins the race, and he is now #1 in the point standings in the IndyCar events. In sports, but we'll look it up.
Races,
That's
maybe.
right. We'll try to get it for you tomorrow. I think CBS is going to have some human car highlights.
Oh, boy.
That's right. Tonight we have tennis and plenty of it. Up next, Martina dominates again at Wimbledon, and other sports up next.
Well, Fox is back, and he has some highlights for us.
That's right, from 1986. We are already 6 days into 1987, but I think we would be remiss to forget 1986 without taking at least one last look at some of the plays of the year. Let's go to the videotape. We're going to start with the... What in the world is that? Hey, you got me. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was a real barn burner, I guess. Well, I have no idea what to do now because if we don't, we're going to stretch. Okay.
What are we rewinding the tape?
We're going to come back to the three. Hey, it was a great year though. Let me tell you.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Didn't mean to get you all choked
No,
up.
I just sucked in some spit.
Lead at the LA Open, helped by a hole-in-one today. He leads Danny Edwards. Here I am.
Sounds good.
And there's a yellow jacket somewhere around. Oh, it's on my back, seriously.
Oh, wow.
We're going to
We'll be
battle
back in
yellow
a minute.
jackets, and the daily fours are 3084.
There really is one on there.
The bee.
Dean Adele will tell us about the health benefits, if any, from saunas.
And we'll meet some monkeys who are using steam to beat the cold. Stay with us. Or wind gust, which hit the area this afternoon, also sent a tree right down the middle of a Springfield woman's home. Linda Russell was just feet from where the 40-foot fir crashed through her kitchen, severing her house in the Gateway area. Fortunately, no one was injured, although she's not sure where her cat disappeared to. She says the wind only lasted a few seconds.
Well, the brief twister or wind gust also sent a tree right down the middle of a Springfield woman's home. Linda Russell was just feet from where the 40-foot fir crashed through her kitchen, severing her house in the Gateway area. Fortunately, no one was injured, although she's not sure where her cat disappeared to. We've heard this before, haven't we?
I'm sure I've heard this someplace before. It sounds familiar to me.
Okay, well...
Judy Unruh reports.
Jody Unruh reports. Well, another beautiful but hot day for us. Let's take a look at the latest satellite map.
Now, I know that you are yet to be wired up to the information highway, is that right?
That's right. Remember, I'm on that information dirt road,
That's
baby.
right.
On the cart and oxen cart.
Well, you have to go back to school.
I know.
Okay, I'll get under control here. Oregon schools are keeping pace with the nation in wiring their schools for computer technology. Pardon me. He cracks me up.
The 295-pound grizzly had been in the thicket of property near the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center she escaped from. Officials say an infrared videotape indicated the bear left the area May 8th.
And now is running our camera.
Yes, and may have settled in a more remote wilderness area in southern Oregon.
Or in our studio.
Okay.
Fire control managers say the rains have created a thick crop of tall grass, but it will take only a few dry and warm weeks to turn that into tinder. Then a carelessly tossed match or sparks from a controlled burn could start a raging forest fire and blacken hundreds of acres, and that's not funny.
If you've just returned from a weekend of crowded camping, or if you're thinking of taking to the woods or the coast, this story is for you. State recreation officials say you can expect a lot of company this summer in parks and campgrounds, and they...
Good morning, I'm Todd McKimmon. We're going to cover rhythmic gymnastics when we cover checkers and synchronized swimming. And that's never.
The cleanup continues at the at that car dealership that burned in West Eugene last week.
And we have some people that are
go dancing.
We have some people that want to go dancing even out here. What do you know?
Take your electric off. Let's go dancing.
We might have to get to that in just a bit, but first we have to talk about the weather. Yeah, a little cloudy. He doesn't look so happy about the weather.
She is just a doll, and I've got to tell you, she really does seem to like people. She just snuggles right up and right. But
she
right
likes
now,
to explore too.
She's not so sure about sports this morning, so we'll go.
Oh gosh.
She's okay.
The cat's okay.
She's okay. Oh, she's okay. In sports news,
8 lives left.
Summer camp with the cops. I'm Pat McGilvery in Eugene. That story's coming up at 6 o'clock.
I'm from Myrtle Point. Population 4,320. Salute.
State workers held an informational picket during the noon hour today. The sticking points left include a steeper pay hike for the state's lowest paid workers, fully paid health insurance, and more stability for temporary employees.
For your on-air staff of KVL, CBS Channel 13, Eugene, Oregon.
Sports anchor in 3-button jacket or a spanker, yeah.
Oh, so many good things to do. We can watch the Super Bowl, we can go to the theater, or we can head on up into...
Sure, my chair just
What is the oddly appropriate name of this KVAL weekend sports anchor? What is this oddly appropriate name?
Rob LaHockey.
Rob LaHockey.
Oh, boy. We're a little bit mixed up in the back.
Are we confused or are you?
One more. When not at work, anchor Sarah Wall can usually be found doing what? What does Sarah like to do when she's not at work?
Spending time with her dog, Barkley.
Exactly right. Spending time with her dog, Barkley.
I don't know what I'm saying.
For your on-air staff of KVL, CBS Channel 13, Eugene, Oregon.
So there you have it, 50 years of KVAL TV. We're proud of what we've accomplished in the last half century, thanks to the hundreds of dedicated men and women in front of and behind the camera who've made KVAL Western Oregon's top television station for over 50 years.
And a special thanks to all of you out there for making KVAL a part of your life since 1954. We couldn't have done it without you. Thanks for watching, and here's to another 50 years.